The airport was always a place of movement, of arrivals, departures, reunions, and quiet goodbyes. People rushed past each other with suitcases and tired smiles, chasing flights and futures. But for Daniel Carter, the airport had always meant something else. It was the place where he had lost the love of his life. 7 years had passed since that day, yet every detail still lived inside his memory like a photograph that time refused to fade. Daniel sat in the waiting area near Gate 23, staring at the giant glass windows where planes rested under the pale evening sky. The sun was setting slowly, painting the clouds in shades of orange and violet. Passengers moved around him, voices echoing softly through the terminal. He had a flight to Chicago in 2 hours. A business trip, another meeting, another hotel room, another city that would feel just as empty as all the others. Daniel had built a successful career over the years. A comfortable life, a respected position at an architectural firm in New York. People admired him, trusted him, depended on him. But success had never managed to fill the quiet space in his heart. Because that space still belonged to her. He leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes for a moment. And just like that, the past returned. 7 years earlier, he had stood in this same airport with a girl whose laughter once felt like sunlight. Her name was Emily Lawson. She had been 22, full of dreams and stubborn hope. Her brown hair used to fall softly around her shoulders, and her eyes, those warm hazel eyes, had a way of making Daniel forget every worry in the world. They had met in college. Daniel still remembered the first moment clearly. It had been a rainy afternoon. He was running across campus trying to escape the storm when he collided with someone near the library entrance. Books scattered across the ground. Emily had looked up at him with a mixture of surprise and annoyance. "You should watch where you're going," she had said. Daniel had apologized quickly while helping gather the books. One of them was a novel he loved. "You like this book?" he had asked. Emily smiled slightly. "It's my favorite." That was how it began. Conversations turned into coffee. Coffee turned into long walks through the city. And before either of them realized it, their lives had quietly intertwined. Emily had dreams of becoming a photographer. She loved capturing moments, tiny pieces of life frozen forever in pictures. Daniel loved architecture. Buildings fascinated him, the way they stood against time, telling silent stories. They were different in many ways, but somehow they understood each other perfectly. For 3 years, their lives moved together like a gentle rhythm. They traveled, laughed, argued about small things, and planned a future that felt certain. But life rarely follows the plans people make. One evening Emily came to Daniel's apartment with a strange mixture of excitement and worry in her eyes. "I got an opportunity," she said quietly. "A photography program in Paris." Daniel felt both proud and afraid at the same time. Paris meant distance. Months, maybe years apart. "You have to go," he told her. She shook her head slowly. "I don't want to lose us." Daniel held her hands. "You won't." But deep inside, both of them were afraid. The day Emily left was the day they stood in this very airport. She was holding a small camera in her hands, the one Daniel had given her on her birthday. Her eyes were shining with unshed tears. "Promise me something," she whispered. "What?" "That no matter where life takes us, we won't forget this." Daniel smiled gently. "How could I forget the best thing that ever happened to me?" Emily tried to laugh, but the sadness in her eyes betrayed her. When the boarding call came, the moment arrived too quickly. She hugged him tightly. "Wait for me," she whispered. Daniel nodded. "I will." But life, as it often does, had other plans. At first they spoke every day. Video calls, messages, late-night conversations across time zones. Emily sent him photographs of Paris streets, cafes, and sunsets along the Seine. Daniel sent her pictures of buildings he was designing. But slowly, life became busier. Calls became shorter, messages less frequent. Sometimes weeks passed before they spoke. Distance has a quiet way of testing love. One night, during a long phone call filled with silence, Emily said something that Daniel never forgot. "Do you ever feel like we're slowly becoming strangers?" Daniel didn't know what to say. Because part of him feared she might be right. The final conversation happened on a cold winter evening. Emily sounded tired. "I think we should stop hurting each other," she said softly. Daniel felt the world shift beneath his feet. "Is that what you want?" There was a long silence. I don't know what I want anymore. And just like that, the call ended. Neither of them called again. Years passed. Life moved forward. Daniel buried himself in work. He dated a few times, but nothing lasted. No one ever felt like Emily. And now here he was again, sitting in the same airport after 7 long years. Daniel opened his eyes slowly. The terminal was busier now. People hurried toward gates while announcements echoed through the air. He stood up to stretch his legs and walked toward the coffee shop nearby. As he waited in line, something made his heart pause. A familiar laugh. Soft, warm, unmistakable. Daniel turned slowly, and for a moment, the entire world seemed to stop. Standing a few feet away was a woman with a camera hanging around her neck. Her brown hair was slightly longer now, and her face carried the quiet maturity of someone who had lived through many stories. But those hazel eyes were exactly the same. Emily. Daniel felt his chest tighten. 7 years had passed, yet the sight of her brought every emotion rushing back at once. She hadn't noticed him yet. She was looking at something on her phone, smiling faintly. Daniel's heart pounded. Part of him wanted to walk away. Another part refused to move. Then Emily looked up. Their eyes met. For a second neither of them spoke. Shock flickered across her face, followed by disbelief. Daniel, she whispered. He nodded slowly. Hi, Emily. The distance between them suddenly felt both small and enormous. Emily walked closer, her expression a mixture of nervousness and warmth. I can't believe it's you. Daniel let out a soft breath. Neither can I. For a moment they simply stood there, unsure of what to do. 7 years of memories hung silently between them. Finally Emily laughed softly. Of all places in the world, the airport again. Daniel smiled. Life has a strange sense of humor. They sat together near the window overlooking the runway. The conversation began awkwardly at first. How have you been? Emily asked. Good, Daniel said. Busy. And you? Emily nodded. Still chasing photographs. She showed him her camera. I've been traveling a lot. Daniel felt a quiet pride in his chest. I always knew you'd make it. Emily looked down for a moment. I wasn't always sure. They talked about their lives. Careers, cities, friends. But both of them avoided the one topic that truly mattered. Finally Emily spoke softly. I'm sorry. Daniel looked at her. For what? For disappearing like that. He shook his head. I could have called too. Silence settled between them. Then Emily said something that carried years of unspoken emotion. You were the hardest goodbye of my life. Daniel felt a familiar ache in his heart. You were mine, too. Outside the window, a plane slowly lifted into the evening sky. Emily looked at him with gentle sadness. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if things were different? Daniel smiled faintly. Every once in a while. She studied his face carefully. You never married. Daniel laughed quietly. You did your research. Emily shrugged. Small world. And you? She shook her head. No. Another silence passed between them. But this one felt different, less heavy, more thoughtful. Emily's voice softened. I used to think losing you was the biggest mistake of my life. Daniel looked at her. And now? She smiled sadly. Now I think maybe life just needed time to bring us back to the same place. Daniel glanced around the airport. Apparently it likes airports. Emily laughed. And hearing that laugh again felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. The boarding announcement for Daniel's flight echoed through the terminal. He checked the screen. Gate 23. Time to leave. Emily noticed the change in his expression. Your flight. He nodded. She looked down at her hands. Mine too. For where? New York. Daniel raised an eyebrow. That's where I live. Emily smiled. I know. Daniel blinked in surprise. You knew. She nodded slowly. I saw your name on an architecture article last year. The realization sent a strange warmth through Daniel's chest. For 7 years, he had thought she vanished completely. Yet somehow their lives had quietly watched each other from afar. The final boarding call sounded. Passengers began lining up. Daniel stood, feeling the familiar sadness of goodbye. But this time something felt different. Emily stood too. For a moment they simply looked at each other. 7 years of distance rested in that quiet moment. Then Emily said softly, Daniel, would you like to get coffee when we land? He smiled. I thought you'd never ask. They walked toward the gate together. Not as strangers, not exactly as the same people they once were, but as two souls who had traveled separate roads only to meet again where their story had once paused. Outside the window, another plane rose into the darkening sky. And somewhere between departures and arrivals, between past regrets and future possibilities, their story quietly began again.